Hi students, I'm Professor Patti and I teach at Cleveland State University. This is the video to describe our summative assessment at the end of our semester. So I'm going to go ahead and pull down one window at a time. We're going to start on our syllabus with assignment 4. Now we're going to go up a little and say, when are all these assignments due? Starting on page 13 of the syllabus, we have assignment 1, 2, and 3, which we've already reviewed in separate videos. And now assignment 4 is 3 different sections that are broken down into 3 smaller papers. I think so that you don't get fatigued trying to write a paper on all of them, but I'm going to be showing you what I'm anticipating, what not to do. And yeah. And I'm actually going to be showing you a little bit about AI. So this assignment requires you to develop a community case analysis. And this is what's brand new this semester in 2024, that as a generalist social work student, you understand that there are policy rollouts. So policy rollouts in Ohio that have happened recently, maybe you are aware because you work in children's mental health or you're a Medicaid provider. And you know about Ohio RISE, and you know about the rollout of the CANS trauma, which anybody who works with a child with case management programming in Ohio has to be certified in the CANS, which was formerly not everybody had to be certified in it. So we had to have all of these trainers available and all of these trainings and all of the Zoom links set up and everybody registered, and the rollout started after people were already supposed to be enrolled, right? Because the implementation and the carrying it out sometimes takes months and months longer than expected. So these are some of the details that we're really grateful for, because recently in the state of Ohio, the NASW successfully campaigned for license. We have a compact so that our license is transferable and we can practice in 7 states with our state of Ohio license. So whatever changed about it, I think had something to do with our CSWE competency changing and looking at all of our programs and saying, in this state, we need to have these final 9 competencies reviewed as part of it. So we just want to be assessing everyone the exact same way across the United States of America and across the state of Ohio, which has, as we know in social works, all kinds of ethical problems, right? So we're experiencing them now, but that's okay, because as generalist social workers, our role is to understand that this is trauma on a system every time that we make a change to licensure standards. And when there is change, humans respond with stress. And so we anticipate that there's going to be stress, and we try to anticipate what students are going to be stressed about and what they might not understand. And, you know, that's part of it. So if we are stressed by this change, we say, oh, yay, we are human and we are not burned out. So section 1, we have the first 3 social work competencies. Now, I have my LISW-S, which means I supervise people in training supervision that counts towards their independent licensure. So you need 150 hours of training supervision. And training supervision is different than regular supervision, because training supervision isn't just looking at, did you do your notes? Have you met the standards? Are you within policies? Are you going to get our agency sued? That's typical supervision if you're getting it. Training supervision looks at, how are you using the competencies of social work in your field? How are you using your competencies of social worker in your career? How are you developing your ethical and professional behavior? So you have been using these competencies throughout your internship to describe what you're going to be learning and how you're going to be learning these competencies. So this is language that should not be unfamiliar to you. So I would like for you, there's 2 points per competency, and I'd like for you to flesh them out. Now, perhaps you're thinking, Professor Patti, why don't I just put this in AI? I'm going to show you. If you are not familiar with AI, I'm going to cut and copy the instructions here. And then I'm going to switch over and show you what I tried to do to have it up, which was I tried to sign into Bing to use our protected Bing chat. However, I'm in an incognito tab here, and so it doesn't work. So my Office Outlook account is not, my main one is not through Cleveland State because I have another job. And maybe you have this same problem, that sometimes you work in incognito tabs and things don't work for you. And that's okay, because we can just switch over to, I like to do all my Cleveland State stuff in Firefox so I can keep it straight. Oh, I can't make that small. I'll lose it forever. Okay, Firefox. I lost it. I lost it forever. Okay, so we're not going to use chat. Through Cleveland State University, the recommended AI to use is Bing Chat, because Bing, we have an agreement with Bing that their AI will not store our data. So we get around FERPA guidelines, which is like HIPAA, but for school. We get around HIPAA problems, and we get around privacy problems for those of us who are researching, and it's protected information, because Bing's large language learning model is not storing our information for future use. It's also expressly prevented from being sued. It's prevented from the copyright lawsuits that the New York Times is currently suing large language learning models. I think it's ChatGPT 5. It might be another version. There's another one which is not protected, which is Pi, and it's free. So if you're using this, please don't put client information into it or student information into it, because that is a violation of ethical laws, right? So what if I wanted to use large language to complete this assignment? Well, I would paste it in there and say, how did you do this? So this is pretty workable response, right? This is perfect grammar and very boring and doesn't actually tell me what you did. So if I'm going to be able to tell right away, you shouldn't be doing it, right? However, if you're somebody who's saying, I don't really even know how to talk about the competencies anymore, you might say personal values. Oh, well, I put it into pi.ai, and this is helping me shape my thoughts, right? So our personal values are shaped by our upbringing, cultural background, and life experience. These values may influence us. We're going to go back to our syllabus, reflect on your personal values, and articulate how they may have influenced your perspective. So it's not in first person. We're not talking about any kind of actual values. I'd like it to be a little bit deeper, right? So if you are using AI to just cut and paste, it's not going to give you much of a workable result, because this paper is how do you implement your values? How have you reflected on your growth? So I might say, what are some values that might influence my perspective on a community as a social work and as a social work MSW in Ohio? Oh, and I misspelled it. So here's some actual value language. And if you drew it back, you might see that these are the exact values from the NASW. Great. So are these provide a citation for the referenced social work values? That looks like it checks out, right? But if you just cut and paste this onto your reference page, it might not work, or it may. So here's the NASW Code of Ethics. So if it were me, so this is a large language model, which means it's only going to tell me statistically, just like predictive text, if you've seen on Facebook, fill in the blank. I'm a Libra, so of course I blah, 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 right? And you just push the button. This is a predictive text. So it's only going to tell you the most likely next word. So it's possible that people talk about integrity, but integrity is not really on there. So if you are using AI in this way, I am totally fine with it. And I would love that because I want you to be looking at this open educational resource and talking with community members who have dyslexia about how to come up with bullet points to explain the values they're using. These are wonderful tools for kids who are neurodivergent and have a hard time with executive functioning, right? I could also say in here, for competency 1, ethical and professional behavior, what are some questions I might ask myself to evaluate my own bias in ethical social work practice? So it comes up with lots of responses. So if you're using these, what I would like you to do is quote them in your reference paper. It is not a peer-reviewed slide, right? But I would also probably quote if I had run my final paper through Grammarly, because my grammar is horrific, right? Ask any of my teachers from school. So assignment 1, or assignment 4, section 1 is due 4 days after assignment 3. So this is really clinical and your intervention plan. And then, you have your first assignment, which is a clinical outcome report. It should look like a report. Section 2, I'm looking for semi-structured interviews or snowballing interviews that have to do with one another. Step 3, this is what our community, with the research and with the community interviews, we would have more questions about, right? Assignment 4, 4 days later, I want you to talk about ethics. And I hope that you've been noticing ethical and professional behavior and making choices about what you do. I hope that you've been advancing human rights and thinking about equity and equitable access in your community this whole time. Section 3, engaging in anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are you doing that? I want to know, and your peers want to know, because maybe your peers have been working in nursing homes and are really curious about how you would do this or how you engage in anti-racism in nursing homes, right? Or maybe they've wanted to and it never even occurred to them. Maybe you're working with colleagues who have heart projects of their heart of including senior daycare centers and child daycare centers. And then you share something in your presentation about a way you've leveraged community funding or community transportation that really helps other people. People love the final projects here, and we've always done them as a video or as a review. So I'm sad because we are not adding that, because you already have 3 extra little papers added 4 days apart. 5, 6, let's see, that was 4 days later, 7 days later, 4/26, that's due. I don't know how many days that is, a little more than a week later. And then we have the final paper, right? Which is all of them combined. These are not formal present to the class. I'm speaking of them as if they are, because I would love them to be. But I would like for you guys to be thinking about how you're disseminating this information at a board meeting, because the board wants to know, not because they want to know or they're putting work on you. Like, that's why they're volunteering on this project. The people who are on your school board want to know. The people in your community maybe want to know. If you interview someone who's a community organizer who's working at a community development center, and there are community development block grants all over Cuyahoga County and all over the state, those people maybe want you to come and present over the summer. And I would really encourage you to foster those relationships and be thinking about this paper in those terms. So again, if I'm giving you feedback, it's generally going to be feedback that's not like, I will take off points or I don't like this. If I don't like it, I will tell you I don't like it, because generally the feedback I'm giving you is, I love this for you. Here's some next questions. Here's some next steps, because what I would like is for all of you to be deeply developing your career and developing your social work career and thinking about how you are going to continue engaging your community. I have wonderful little videos and papers and things that are not required, but that may supplement some of your projects along the way in the weekly course content. So that's assignments that's combined to the final project, your summative case analysis.